Hi, I'm Ann Alexander of Higher Ground Welding and Art in North Central Pennsylvania. I'm a welder, fabricator, welding instructor, and artist whose work often draws inspiration from the natural world and landscape around me. What you're about to watch is the complete build of Keystone Hatch, my sculpture for the Penn's Woods exhibition at the Penn State Arboretum. The project took nearly 100 hours to build, and along the way I filmed a series of short updates. I've stitched them together here so you can follow the entire process from the first sketch on paper to the finished sculpture in the Arboretum. I hope you enjoy seeing how it came together. Hey, fun news! I got accepted to put one of my sculptures at the Penn State Arboretum this summer. And I'm a little bit nervous, to be honest, because anytime that I submit one of my pieces to like an artist call of some kind, it's usually something that I built, like, oh look, I made this crow, do you want to put it up in your display somewhere? And this time I didn't. I did a concept, a sketch, and they're like, yeah, what a nice idea, why don't you build that for us? And I'm like, and I'm good at doing that. As soon as I can get the idea in my head, I'm pretty good at putting it down on paper and then building it. Like I'm familiar with prints. I can read a blueprint and reproduce that thing into an actual thing and then hand it to the customer. So I'm pretty good at doing my own sketches and turning them into a thing. But every single time I'm like, this time I'm gonna fuck it up. This is gonna be the time. I'm gonna be an embarrassment. Would you like to see what I'm gonna be building for these people? And another thing I normally don't do is share what I'm going to do on here. I don't do a bunch of process videos because they take so long, but I think I'm gonna do it this time. This time I'm gonna tell the internet what I've been accepted to do and what I'm gonna do, and maybe do some steps along the way. And at the end of May, well, heck, maybe you can come along for the opening, the reception. Oh, I did do a video about my crow. I submitted my crow to this and they didn't like that quite as much as they liked the mayflies. Because whatever you do, whatever you submit has to do with like woods and woodlots and forests or Pennsylvania history, and I call this Keystone Hatch. And Pennsylvania is the Keystone State, but these guys are a keystone species. They're an indicator species. They talk about water quality. I've already waxed on at length about mayflies because they're one of my favorite native animals, and I've made sculptures of them before. I actually liked it so much that I built 2 more to sell so that I could keep one of these at home on my mantle. There is one of these on my mantle at home. This one was for sale, but now it's going to be my model for making a ton more of these things. I got to sculpt each one for this sculpture. The footprint has to be max 4 foot by 4 foot, and I haven't quite figured out how this is going to be. It's going to be probably 2 foot 4 inches tall. This is pretty much to scale, and it's going to have these concentric circles at the bottom. It's going to be made mostly out of exhaust pipe. So this whole thing is relatively light compared to this bottom, which is going to have a bulldozer gear underneath it, and then it's going to be covered by something. I don't know yet. Maybe stainless round stock. I'm going to find something stainless, hopefully, that'll be kind of like wavy water that comes out from where the stick comes out of the water. And if you live near a real water source, like a river or a lake or a stream, when the mayflies come out, all the ephemeral little insects that the trout love to hit, they just cluster at like gas stations and any place where they can, get together. Sticks and rocks near the water, and so that's kind of what I'm replicating. It's gonna be all these little guys just kind of drying off and waiting their turn for their short little life. Because that's all they do. They hatch and they breed and they pretty much die off. And again, the thing I like so very much about mayflies is that they sequester energy from underneath the streams and then fly up miles away, whether they're eaten by a bird or eaten by a trout or any other fish, and they go on down the river. They take buried energy in the benthic layer like leaf litter. It's just like this whole big cycle of energy falling into the stream and then finally being picked up into an organism that gets picked up into another organism, sometimes like 3 or 4 more trophic levels, and that energy winds up like far, far away from where it originated. That's my favorite part about mayflies. But besides the fact they're just really distinctive, they've got a very recognizable profile in our ecosystem. And they're cute. So that is my big exciting news. I get to make a statue that's going to be displayed at Penn State main campus in Center County, Pennsylvania, starting at the end of May. I think I have to install it Labor Day week, Memorial Day week. This is one that didn't win out. I was just kind of trying to figure out, like, maybe she's planting wildflowers or throwing seeds to birds. I don't know what I was thinking. That's going to be Keystone Hatch, or maybe that. I even floated this, which is higher, so it could be bigger. So to be continued. Just an update on the sculpture I'm going to make for the Penn State Arboretum with all of the mayflies on it. I spent tonight cutting out parts, and if you're a maker that makes things, out of little bitty pieces, you know that two of the things that take the most time are the layout and then getting all of your stuff together. So here are the fore wings and the hind wings. And it's not just 4 wings, it's 20 of them because I cut enough material to make 10 mayflies. So here's a made up one. See that distinctive mayfly profile? It's just as distinctive as any dragonfly or butterfly, and that's why I decided to make them. I've got a pair for each of the 10 flies of these, and a pair for each of the 10 flies of these, so 20 each, 40 altogether. Hand cut, ground and finished tonight. I've got the abdomens, I've also got the thorax and the head, and I've also got all of the legs put together. They were in the piles, the respective piles they needed to be. So much like the cobbler, I'm putting out my pieces at night and just hoping some little gnomes put them together for me, and they will be fully formed mayflies tomorrow. Let's see how it goes. On the updates I'm doing for the sculpture I'm making for the Penn State Arboretum this summer, it's going to be a big branch with a bunch of little mayflies on it. Well, big mayflies. And I didn't get a whole lot done tonight, but last time I had all these pieces cut out. Tonight I welded the bodies together. This is the original, and this is the first kind of like mock-up one I started, and I'm tired, so I'm just gonna kind of leave this here for the next time I come in. And the next thing I've got to do is to put these little wings on the side, like that, I think. So that's that. I'm hoping to get 9 of these little guys done before May starts. Let's see if I can do it. Quick update on the mayfly sculpture that I'm making for the Penn State Arboretum. I really didn't get very far today, but just like if you're filling out a job card for a timesheet, you want to know exactly how much time was spent on every job. So what the heck? I spent an hour tonight on it, laid out my 4x4 footprint. Again, found some of the tubing that I'm going to be using for the stick, and I cleaned it. I scrubbed it, it's still wet. So I was polishing the tube tonight, and I'm going to have to find out exactly how the mayflies are going to sit on it. So I'm going to be putting the fat part up and then the skinnier part up, and I'm going to be, oh my God, what's it called when you cut it lengthwise? It's not pie cutting, that's 90 degrees to it. Anyway, I'm going to be tapering them so that they look a little bit more natural. Trying to figure out how these little guys are going to be sitting all over it and interspersed. So that's as far as I got. Oh wait, I have a gear. Something like that. And it's going to have to be diagonally, something like that. And I'm deciding whether or not to put some sort of internal structure in here so it isn't just tube on gear. I'm thinking about putting a bit of round stock or maybe even a flat bar, you know, attaching a meaty thing to that meaty thing that is hidden by the inside of this. And then I'm going to flare this out just a little bit. I'm going to taper this in just a little bit so that the next thing that goes into it gets flared out just a little bit, and maybe kind of, see, this is what I got to figure out yet, is how tall it's going to be, and we don't want it tipping over, and how long it's going to be, and how much rise and run I can have to still stay within the footprint guidelines that the Arboretum would like. I kind of just want to tack it together and move it together and see how it looks each time. So that's where we are, admittedly not super far, but it is one step closer. There's what I should be doing, and there's what I feel like doing. What I feel like doing is tacking this up to kind of like see what it's going to look like in its final form. So that's what I'm going to do first, because dopamine. All right, this is not our final form. I'm going to preheat this before I weld it. I'm just kind of tacking things together to see what the orientation of the branches is going to be. So don't get your knickers all in a bunch. Because I'm going to be cutting all these anyway. So my footprint starts there at that corner. Yep, that corner, and it ends over here at that seam and that line. And the base is going to be just a touch longer than where the gear is now, so that's somewhere like something roughly. Yeah. That is going to fall off. Safety square. more pictures of twigs. Not as easy as I thought. I gotta look up sticks. Check it, we got a modified plan now. Make it do the thing. Make it look like it. Make the thing look like the thing. I think I got her licked now. We're just gonna start fabbing. We're just gonna play it together now. We're just gonna start fabbing. On this little guy, we're just gonna flare the base a little bit. Just give it a little swagey poo. Doesn't have to be perfect. There are no mistakes, only happy accidents. It's your world. I like it. Time to go. So there you go. I fitted up, got a bit of a template, and I flared the base. I've got the big gear weight for the bottom of this sculpture up on blocks so I can hit it with a torch, preheated a little bit. I've done a little bit of cleaning on it, a little bit of cleaning on this guy. It's gonna go like this. It's gonna weld on there, and then that thing is gonna weld on this, just to give it a little bit more support, because that tube is gonna be hanging up kind of like that, and I just wanna give it just a little bit more meat there on the very bottom where all the stress is gonna be right down in here. So let's throw some weld on it. I don't have a rosebud. Yeah, yep, yeah. 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 Yep. I'm gonna kind of fill in my gaps here with some spent welding rod that I just couldn't bear to throw away. All right, so one of the challenges I always have with doing natural things is that nothing in nature is perfect, right? Except it is, because it's not. It's like the dichotomy of nature that kind of contradicts itself, that you can tell when a horse's leg is slightly off, or when someone's eyes are just not quite right, even though there's a big variation in human eyeballs, how far apart they are, one's bigger than the other, you can tell when something's not quite right. And so when it comes to this branch, I'm agonizing over, like, I don't want to make it perfect. I don't want it to be in line, all of the branches to be in line with the tilt, but I don't want it to look like it didn't grow naturally, even though it's just made out of exhaust pipe. So I've made this main one out of round. I tried to make these two come off of the long points of my oval, but not in an even way, so that when you're standing looking at it face on, they should not be in line. So this is going to go lengthwise that way. Like that's this corner, that's this corner, and I deliberately try to make it off kilter, and then this one off of that one. So it's all leaning, and then I'm gonna do a branch on this one coming out this way just a little bit, just to try to balance this. I'm gonna try to balance it all overall without putting it perfectly in line, if that makes sense. Okay, help me out. Does this look like a branch? It's gonna have all these little mayflies living on it. Is it a good size? And I'm about 5'7" these days, I think. Does it look like a stick coming out of water? I hope it looks like a stick coming out of water. If anybody doesn't like it, please comment quickly, because I think I'm going to weld it solid. Only a real welder knows the feeling of not wanting to weld anymore. You get into this job wanting to slam steel together and see the sparks. It's theatric, it's sexy, it's mystical, and leaves people dazzled. Then you get into an actual building position, and you're immediately met with the reality that the majority of your time is spent finding material, cutting it to length, running for new tools because yours is broken, finding parts, cleaning, fit up, measuring, cleaning more, rechecking, and then finally a little bit of welding before cleaning it up again, then maybe paint. Rarely do you actually get on your job where you are sick of welding. It's an uncommon yet immediately relatable feeling to say, I am sick of welding, I've had enough for today. Because what you might not know about being in this trade is that you almost never get sick of welding. You get sick of everything except welding. Which is why when a welder says, I'm done, I don't want to weld anymore today, that means something. Because it's not common. It means they actually got enough arc time to be tired of the part they signed up for. Hello, I haven't had much to update on this sculpture because all I've been doing is welding on it. Welding on it, downhand, 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 downhand with a MIG. But I've reached a point where I guess I could update you that I am half done. Like exactly, well, I guess more than half done. What I'm gonna do is, what I've been doing is, I've been using my MIG gun and just starting high and going low, running downhand with it, just trying to put in some really rough, crazy looking bark. And I've got this idea that if I turn the whole thing upside down now and do the same thing, turn it upside down and then run it downhand, that maybe the ripples will alternate and it'll be interesting. It's just like icing a cake. Welding is just like icing a cake. It's all heat control and piping and where you're putting the bead of material. So imagine piping your icing this way, then that way, then this way, then that way. I'm wondering if maybe the ripples going in opposite directions will... I think it's probably not going to do much, but what the heck? This was taking a long time anyway, so doing the alternating beads helped me to do it without going out of my gourd. So I'm just going to turn it upside down and see if it makes a difference in the end. So I'm to that point where I can do it. So, like, mostly half covered. That's cool. It's silly, but I find it really cool. Looking at it from a different perspective, I guess. Well, better get to her. I actually think it might be worth it. Maybe a welder is the only one who would notice. But wouldn't that be fun? Going from industry welding and like structural code standards to doing artwork is a little bit strange because you don't have to weld quite as good, but you still have to be a good welder. But you have to toe this line between kind of crappy welding and perfect welding because you want it to be good, but not too good because it has to have character in it. This is, for example, a tree that I've been working on, which is basically a big multi-pass where I have to put a bunch of bead after bead after bead on it, and it's kind of like padding. If you ever want to build up a worn part or worn piece where you just need to add a little bit of metal onto it, you don't just start, pulling the trigger or just start globbing a piece of stick rod on there. There's a method. There's kind of a procedure you use where you stack one bead next to each other so that everything melts together and the toes all kind of like icing a cake once again. But if I just did this like a perfect overlay, it wouldn't look much like tree bark, would it? So that while some people might look at this, especially you welders, and say, oh my gosh, those are pretty crappy beads, some others might look at it and say, actually, those beads aren't too bad. I know that they're not very straight, they're crooked, they're deviating. We've got a little bit of porosity there. We've got a lot of cold lap, rollover, a bunch of this little silica still stuck in there. If I were to weld over that, I'm certain I welded over some of that. So we've got an inclusion if I welded over that, if I hadn't chipped it or brushed it. The spatter, the cold lap, the inconsistencies, the discontinuities, but also there's quite a bit of continuity too, isn't there? There is quite a bit of consistency. And there were a few times that I caught myself actually having to be worse at welding. I caught myself being a little bit too consistent, where things were laying in just a little bit too nicely. I wanted to see some ropiness. I wanted to see some turd burgling. Huh? I wanted some stuff to fall off my nozzle and become part of the weld. I want to start where a clear and obvious piece of partially melted wire is still stuck to the parent metal. Okay, get that out. Get that off. Ew. I want to be able to cut my hand if I run over this too fast. Freaking ow. If I would have just gone all willy-nilly, it would have been this like god-awful mess that would have taken a long time and I don't think would have looked as nice. But if I was any more careful than this, then it would have been too consistent to really be organic and natural. It would just look like an overlay. And I think I'm getting pretty close to done with most of this bark on this thing. I'm hoping tonight I'm going to finish up a few of the naked spots on this. And I'm going to roll it another 90 somehow. I'll let you know if it lands on me. I'll try to get my phone on me. I received this question on the tree sculpture that I'm making. It's actually a branch. It's the size of a small tree, but imagine the branch is very big because the bugs that are going to be on it are bigger to scale than they are in real life. The question is, how many pounds of wire is on this? And you can tell that this person is used to welding or fabricating because that's how we measure wire. We could do inches per minute, but what if it's really skinny wire? What if it's really fat wire? So I'm actually just about to put a new spool onto my machine because I killed a spool last night. Guess how many other spools I've killed? Each spool is 11 pounds of wire, and I started with a partial when I began this project, so 11, 22, 33 pounds of wire, plus a partial one that I had, let's say 5 pounds. So let's say 38. 38 pounds of wire I have welded on the branch so far. And at the moment, I don't have a whole lot more to do. You can see all of that. I polished it, so the darker areas where I didn't bother polishing, where it's still smoky, those are the areas that I still have to yet fill in. Flip it back on its bottom, and I've got to clean these up and weld them on the base because the cantilever is now not cantilevering as much since it's starting to get heavy. I actually haven't, since I put all the wire on, I haven't put it back upright, so we're going to see how it stands. And I'll probably stick weld those. And then on top of the branch goes all of these mayflies. They still need one more part on them, but I'm really excited to be this done with this many mayflies. Last night I finished assembling them all and then added all of the brazing rod kind of color to the body. so you can start to see what we're gonna be doing. Oh. First look, oh, oh, oh. Anyone want to fancy a guess on how heavy this thing will be when it's all done? I don't know. I've already grossly wrongly estimated it. That's a bulldozer gear, like a track gear. That's all exhaust tubing, like 14 gauge, so it's hollow. And I just said I put at least 33 pounds of wire on it. 38 pounds of wire. And those little bugs, yeah, and those things. I daren't guess. What's your guess? TikTok's always got great art advice, so could I ask what I should do with my sculpture next? Because I think I got all of the bark done and cleaned up. I even chipped off a lot of the spatter BBs, but it's not quite heavy enough with that gear at the bottom, so I'm going to weld these springs on the bottom. They're from a spring tooth plow. And I kind of just tried to make them look not exactly symmetrical, but just enough to be organic, kind of like water. Whatever, they're going to be there to make it a little bit safer in case someone decides to climb up here and give it a tug. And in the original sketch, I had said I was going to take stainless rod or some strips of stainless and do them in concentric circles coming out from where it is emerging from the ground, kind of like water. Well, can't find stainless. Well, scarce around these parts these days, but what I did get is some copper tubing. If you've been following along, you know the branch goes onto the gear. We're getting somewhere, right? But I need to make it a little bit heavier on the bottom and on that side of the gear so you can't pull it down. Kind of like the way that's looking, those three sitting right there, but I could move them around, flip them. And that pretty shiny copper tubing, I think, is too much of a distraction. I don't even know if I want to put that down, or should I put a ton more than this, like space it tighter together and try to fit, cram it all in there and have it coming out, covering it. Something maybe a little bit more like that. I like the pop of color that it gives, but it also kind of makes everything down there below a little busy. Hard to see, and the mayflies aren't quite done yet. I just have a few leaning up, like they're going to be climbing up the stick, just as though they're resting there. What should I do? What should I do about concentric circles and representing water? There's also this thicker tubing that I could use. I could put thicker tubing around here and then the thinner tubing out, and this can polish up. I can use polish, shiny, all shiny copper down there. Look at it and tell me, pretty please. I really appreciate all the input and ideas people were giving in the last video where I was trying to make a base for this sculpture that I'm making for the Penn State Arboretum. For a little while, I tried to use these brass-covered gasket rings. I didn't like the way they looked. Someone had mentioned concentric circles, so I thought I'd go that direction. This is an old culvert pipe. I've used this material before, and I love it because it's naturally pitted. Here I'm using a pipe wrap, which is a flexible guide that you can put around tubes and pipes to make a perfect cut line around the circumference of the thing. It doesn't work perfectly for this, but well enough for my purposes. I've only got about 10 days to get this thing done, cleaned, painted, and installed, so I started to sweat a little bit. That's 10 total days, not 10 working days, because I've got a family and a life besides being in the shop. If you know, you know. I also figure I should probably put something underneath those concentric circles because they're not going to be rugged enough all by themselves to be like a perfect cantilever. I think they're close. I think this is going to be close enough to an additional safety measure, but something needs to go under it. I don't think a very heavy piece of sheet steel, and what I ultimately actually decided to go with was expanded metal, which isn't going to be very heavy, but I think it's going to have just enough stability, just enough rigidity to hold everything in place and hopefully not slice my fingers as we're trying to put it in place in situ. Here you'll see me bending the pieces over my leg like a real smart person and also using the limbs of my piece itself because I'm particular about what size and shape I want the rings to be. I want the ones closest to the gear to be closest to each other, and then as they expand outward, be a little bit more spaced apart from each other because that's what a real drop of water does, or a stick coming out of the water does. Great, I like it. I wonder if I could put some of that copper tubing on it that I had talked about before. I don't like it. I don't think I like the way it looks, so I think I'm going to have to just eat the cost of that tubing that I bought thinking it was a good idea and just scrap it. I mean, keep it, but scrap the idea. It's also getting harder and harder to move this up onto my workbench when needed. What do you think of this direction? At this point, it doesn't matter. It's what I'm doing. I'm just wondering, what do you think? I may think to add a couple more little elements, like maybe some pebbles above the diamonds, or maybe some reeds or some foliage or some plant matter kind of sticking up here and there. Want to see my latest sculpture done and also meet a local steel artist who's going to give me a hand on the final step? I hope. I think I finally finished the sculpture that was commissioned by Penn State for their Penn's Woods outdoor art exhibition in their arboretum, in their botanical gardens. I appreciate everyone's help and input, because even if I didn't choose the idea that you put in my comments section, I did read and consider each and every one of them, and it's just as important to know what you don't want as what you do want. I also have one more issue that I've kind of got with it that I have a friend coming to help me discuss this morning. It's on this one very last thing, because man, I've already put a coat of clear coat on it. I'm ready to be done. This has consumed my life for a month. You ready? You want to see? Here she is. So back to the base, I did wind up using all these concentric rings that I cut out of that culvert pipe. I really love the texture and the rust holes, because this part is supposed to represent the decay, which is what the mayfly larvae sequester from underneath the creek, the benthic level. They take all that leaf litter and then they turn it into adult mayflies that go fly off when they're eaten by trout at the water surface, or by birds that carry it miles and miles away, that poop and die miles away. So all of that energy in the decaying plant matter underneath the water, underneath the sludge, is out making flowers. I did use the expanded metal just to make it a little more rigid, just to kind of shore it up a little bit, and it worked very nicely, because this thing is getting pretty heavy, but not outrageously heavy. I'm actually able to handle it myself with the help of that and a little bit of finesse and wishful thinking. And I took all these slugs that came out of an iron worker and just kind of interspersed them to look kind of like creek pebbles. And God, I really badly wanted to make a caddisfly case. Caddisflies are hidden architects of the aquatic world, because their aquatic larvae build these astonishing little cases out of sand and little pebbles, and sometimes sticks and seashells, snail shells. And they spin them together with silk that they make into this hard little cocoon. I actually have a pair of earrings made from an artist who feeds caddisfly larvae gemstones. My husband got me these little gemstone caddisfly cocoon earrings, and they are a lot like mayflies in that they sequester nutrients from underneath the water and turn it into bugs that other bigger animals eat. Dang! And although around here the mayflies and the caddisflies kind of hatch at different rates, I really wanted to make a caddisfly case out of these slugs too, which I might yet do, because I like to punish myself and I like being extra. A few people were mentioning that I should put some roughage, some foliage, some plant life there, and I did. Those are supposed to be cattail leaves, but they could be just generic leaves too, I suppose, and they help to kind of hide where I didn't get all of the tube covered up with the bark. I wound up really liking this. I really like how that looks, how that turned out. But the issue I'm having now is that you can't see the mayflies. You can't see these things that took so long, and I placed each one individually. They are really on there. Look, see this little mayfly? I'm moving this whole thing by grabbing onto the mayfly, not the wings, not the circe, but the body. They're all pretty fairly ruggedly welded on, but each one I tacked on and then welded on and then articulated the limbs individually, because see, this guy is just kind of sitting here like they are wont to do. So is this one. Roughly the same pose. But this one is climbing. You see, it hasn't quite gotten to where it's going to be yet. He's got one little foot reaching out. Same kind of with this one. He's still crawling. And this one, see how this leg is crawling forward and that one is still back. These are clustered near the base because they're yet coming out of the water. So they're a little bit more higher concentration of mayflies toward the bottom than there are on the top. But you can't see that. You can't see the mayflies. Stand just the right way, you can see the wings, you can see through them, which is just how real mayflies are. They're kind of see-through, they're very fairy-like. Oh, look at that, I love that. I love it when they're just enough to do the circles. My problem is you can't see the mayflies because it's metal on metal. I have this problem all the time. In this case, I feel like maybe I want these to pop away from this branch more, so does that mean I need to color the branch? What I wanted to try to do was to take a torch to the branch and color the branch, but I would have had to have done it after I put the flies in place. If I were to weld on top of that, it would have put color marks, the heat patina from actually welding the bugs onto the branch. So if I wanted it to be uniform, I would have to take a torch to it now. And although I think it really would work, if it didn't work and these things started falling off, I wouldn't be responsible to the damage occurred to all of the property surrounding my shop. Maybe perhaps an alcohol ink all over it, but that sounds really expensive. And also time is of the essence because I've got to install this on Tuesday. But I have a friend coming over and I don't know if I talked about him before. He's the OG of metal sculpting things in our area. He's my friend Mark English from Westfield, and he does these lovely abstract things and like huge metal flowers and torsos made out of washers. He's quite good at building things out of metal, but best of all, he shares knowledge. He will come and he'll be like, let me tell you how I did this. This is the adhesive I use. Hey, not telling you what to do, but have you thought about doing this? Like, he gives you the advice you asked for, and he gives unsolicited advice, which I don't hate. I don't like snarky, condescending comments, but unsolicited advice is how I got to be where I am. You don't know what you don't know, so if I don't know it, please tell me.
Overcoat it.
Overcoat with acrylic lacquer.
You have to brush the side.
Do you think it would be better to darken the branch or to lighten the flies?
You know, the branch looks pretty good the way it is.
Cool.
If you have any of these pieces left, you can take something like that and color it separately.
I do have a scrap.
Color it and then put it up there and see what.
I didn't get Mark on video because I didn't ask him if he wanted to be content because I feel weird doing that. Just feels super weird doing that. Can I video you for my dumb internet videos? I got this. Gosh, dude, you tell me I broke that again. Nope. I got this cool paint locally, and it's Rust-Oleum Custom Premium Chrome paint. It's gold-colored chrome. It's gold-colored chrome. So I've had metallic gold before, I've had chrome before, but I have not yet tried gold-colored chrome. Let's see what it does. I'm glad that Mark suggested painting... Glad Mark suggested painting up the mayflies a little bit more versus the log. I think that's a smart move. Glad he came. This is exactly the perforated steel that I use for the mayflies. We're gonna try some gold chrome. Let's put it on really heavy and see how it looks. That's actually pretty cool. That's not very dramatic, and that's what I want. I thought I would have to water it down, but I kind of like that. I kind of like that a lot. Look at the difference. It's actually not sticking great to it, so that's kind of cool. That's pretty rad. I might just use that. Does it look like out in the natural light? It doesn't look too fake. I like that very much. Ooh, ooh. Let's just fog it on really lightly. I think that's the ticket right there. How cool is that? Oh, I like that very much. It's got the sheen of the chrome that I've used before, but it's got just a tint of gold, just tinged with gold. Look, it's on my hand and you can kind of see it. That's what I'm going to use right there. All right, I'm reinvigorated. I'm going to do this and then catch up with you later. Okay, and you may narrate if you need to, if you feel the need to. This is going to be the first time I see it in the light. Wait, I got it backwards. The first time after sprit. Oh my God. The first time after spraying the wings. Oh, okay. Be ready to turn that off and call 911 for your mama. Smart Alec. Ready pants. Oh God, don't do it. Don't mess up. Don't mess up. Don't mess up. Oh, yeah. And no problem, Anna. I got this. Don't put the phone down and help me.
Are you good?
Always good. How do you look, bud? What do you think? I added a little color to the wings, and well, actually a little bit of shine to the wings. It's a gold chrome. I've never used it before. Never till now.
I like it.
Hey, thanks. I like you. Despite being in her PJs, Anna demonstrates that it can indeed hold a small child.
It's gonna lift off the ground.
It's not gonna lift off the ground. Oh God.
Told you so.
Right, no more climbing it.
Aww.
It's in there. It's done. I had some friends help me get up over this little lip and over the threshold of the trailer and throw a blanket under it. And now this thing is going to be delivered to Penn State Arboretum tomorrow. I'm going to go finish packing up my job bag with a few essential tools that should be able to fix any little problems that can arise. I'm going to bring my TIG welder, and I asked if I can use my welder. I'm like, I'm going to bring my welder. Is that a problem? Can I run it? And I got kind of a a strange answer that is somewhere between a yes and a no. So we're just gonna hope nothing snaps off in transit, huh? And delivery and installation. And then tomorrow, first thing, I set off for Center County, Pennsylvania. Timing has been on my side this spring, and I'm really, really grateful. And I'm really grateful again for everyone who is like, you know, commenting and clicking and liking and sharing support, because as much as I don't want to be famous, you have to be known if you want to do artwork. And I do love my fabrication, do love my repair, love my instruction, but you know what's really great about artwork? Being able to do it whenever I want to. Being able to come in and do a third shift. Whenever I got some free time, come in and do it. And then I can have some expendable time other places. And that's all dependent on who you know. You're only going to get hired if people know you. So thank you. And thanks for keeping me encouraged this whole time. Taking off in the morning. I will see you then. Come with me to install my latest sculpture at the Arboretum at Penn State for the Penn's Woods Outdoor Art Exhibition. My friend Aaron kindly offered to help me install this thing because he lives down here, but we grew up together in Tioga County. I didn't get pictures of the install itself, but it was us just tossing it off the trailer and putting it in place. They placed my mayflies in the pollinator pond, which I think is a really good choice because the mayflies would love the water. After that was taken care of, Aaron showed me around the area. This is Spring Creek, aka Fisherman's Paradise, that feeds into Bald Eagle Creek. A local favorite for fly fishermen such as himself, this was a great place to see what was hatching, and currently we had sulfur mayflies hatching.
You'll be able to see bugs as they're popping off and what's going on when they're hatching.
He also recommended if I had time to explore the Arboretum before leaving that I should, so that's what I did. I just got here, walked in under a sign that said Arboretum, but I don't know where I am in the Arboretum, so I couldn't tell you except to say that it's really pretty. And one of my favorite things about this place so far, other than it seems like it's really well curated as far as trying to maintain a native aspect of it, is that I love to learn things, and I learn best when I'm actually out doing the thing. Like, you could teach me theory about welding, but unless I'm actually in the lab with my hands on it, I'm probably not going to maintain it. It's the same way with bird calls. You can give me all the electronic devices, but unless I'm out here listening to the birds, usually with an ornithologist, somebody knows her birds, I'm not going to remember the call. I learn everything better when I'm immersed in it, and this is a place that is equal parts botanical garden and museum and learning experience, because here we have the Korean mountain ash. Everything is well labeled. Picea abies, Norway spruce. It strikes me as more expansive than you think when you first see it, because they did the most they could with the acreage that they had, because it's all kind of compartmentalized. Are these catalpa trees? They're the strangest catalpas I've ever seen. They're like bonsai catalpas. Hold on, what are these? Southern catalpa? Is that a thing? Is that how they grow? It looks like they're made for apartment dwellers. And I know those guys, they look like horse chestnuts. Bottle brush buckeye. Okay, it's a buckeye, but I don't know what a bottle brush is. Just all this pansies out for a walk. Aaron said there's a sundial around here somewhere, and he told me you gotta go see the sundial like 3 times. He's like, it's not a normal sundial. Wonder where the sundial is. I'm gonna play in this fountain first. This is more like it. The lotus pool. I hear a chorus frog. Water lilies. Oh my God. Check it out. QR codes you can scan and learn about all of the stuff here. Oh my God, this is a fragrance garden? The parking lot was pretty empty this morning, but they said it would fill up, and it certainly has. This is the vegetable garden. There are rows of corn, peppers and tomatoes, onions. Come around to this pollinator pond. That's not even the cool part. Look. Look. Oh, hi, little guys. Hello. Hi. You're so big and beautiful. I found a goldie and magic carp. Gotta catch him all. Oh, you ever had to drop a kid off at kindergarten before? She'll be fine. Oh, the bees. I also love that they're highlighting the ecological relevance of standing dead, like snags, because I know some people just view them as firewood, tinder for forest fires, but ecologically speaking, they're really valuable as habitat for all sorts of insects, which is food for birds, who also live in dead trees. Bee balm makes a really nice jelly. If you've got bee balm near you and you're into foraging, get you some of that and make jelly with it. Oh, I think this is the sundial. It is indeed a sundial, and I was just feeling relief because the sun went behind some clouds, but now I can't use the sundial. And I guess it's quite accurate. Look at me, I'm finally on time. Get it? I'm on time. I know a few places in State College, and one of the iconic places to visit is Otto's Brewery. Otto's at least used to be one of those State College staples, so I needed to stop in and have one of their house-made beers. Just a little one, 10 ounces of something less than 5%, please. And then I rounded out my trick by visiting a TikTok buddy in his shop. You guys want to see a giant flywheel? I'm here with my friend Mousy in his shop. Watch this thing wind up.
And then
This-
clutch activated.
How old is this one?
Older than me. I have no idea. I don't know any information on it.
Huge, that's what she said.
There she goes.
It has been fun, but it's time to go home. I made a big mayfly sculpture for the Penn State Arboretum for their summer outdoors exhibit, and when I was talking to the woman who kind of put this all together, she said that my sculpture was sick several times. Pretty sure that means that it was a good thing, and she was commenting on the slugs, basically the little leftovers from an iron worker, which is kind of like when you punch a 3-ring binder sheet and all the little white confetti things fall out of your 3-hole punch. They're slugs. They're big metal round pieces in all different sizes and shapes. I made look like pebbles on the bottom of my sculpture, and she was commenting on those, and I said, yeah, I was going to make a caddisfly case out of them too to match the mayflies that are on my sculpture. Caddisfly larvae make this like banana-shaped case that the larvae snuggle up into, and it keeps them safe, and they stick it together with their silk. But I was done, and I didn't really have the time, and she was like, oh my God. Like, she seemed really disappointed that I didn't do that. She's like, well, if it shows up by Sunday, but I don't know how I'm supposed to put it on the sculpture when it's already on site, but we're going to figure it out, because I did go ahead and build this caddisfly larvae case. And I do know how I'm going to attach it. I put this little hidden hook, this little anchor bend piece of nail on the bottom of it. Going to bring me a zip tie, and I'm going to get down on the ground in my skirt. I'm going to have there's something inside of it. I'm going to have somebody pick it up, and I'm going to go ahead and just zip tie this to the bottom using that expanded metal that's on the base. So that is going to be the caddisfly larva gorilla art that I'm going to place on my sculpture when I go to the reception. Wish me luck. All in all, a very cool experience. I hope I get the opportunity to do again. It was really personal for me, and not just because of the artwork. It's because I got to see my hometown on that placard sign, and I got to bring my daughters to a reception. Hello, I'm Ann, a metal artist from North Central Pennsylvania, and I'm having my first public installation at the Penn State Arboretum this summer, and I have a gift for anybody who wants to go visit it. It's amazing what cell phone cameras can do these days. This is a print of some koi fish that I took on the day of my installation, and they are residents of the pollinator pond where my sculpture sits. This is not photoshopped or AI enhanced. I just messed with the shadows and the highlights just a very little bit, but I was really lucky to catch them in the right pose at the right time in the right lighting. I call them simply Arboretum koi. Aren't they cute? I would like to send you one. I'd like to send you a 4x6. If you go to the Arboretum this summer, check out their Penn's Woods Art in the Outdoors exhibition. Take a picture of my piece, which is a branch with some mayflies on it, and tag me on your socials. And I will send you a smaller version of my Arboretum koi. And these are available for purchase too. So if you're in the Center County, Pennsylvania area, or you're going to be visiting Penn State this summer, be sure to visit my sculpture at the Penn State Arboretum and tag me in your socials, and I'll send you a little version of my Arboretum koi print. That's higher ground welding, because conservation is for everyone. Look at this. Look at this. We can't lose this.